North Korea, or in Vietnam rather, 2 months ago. More than 20 years after James Byrd Jr. was dragged to his death chained to a pickup truck in Texas, another of his killers has been executed. John William King put to death by lethal injection on death row in Texas after the U.S. Supreme Court declined to intervene. Clara Byrd Taylor watched as her brother's killer was put to death. She says justice was done, but she felt nothing during the procedure. King did not acknowledge the Byrd family, kept his eyes closed throughout the entire effort, and spoke no last words. The search for a 5-year-old boy missing from his home in Crystal Lake, Illinois, ended Wednesday with the discovery of A.J. Fran's body in a shallow grave. Police chief in Crystal Lake, James Black, says the parents have now been charged with killing the boy. Another of the couple's children has now been placed in foster care. The measles outbreak continues. The Centers for Disease Control reporting that as of Wednesday, there are 695 confirmed cases of measles in 22 states. The Centers for Disease Control says the decision by many parents not to vaccinate their children against the measles has helped the spread of the outbreak. A showdown between the White House and congressional Democrats continues with at least 2 White House staffers defying subpoenas for congressional testimony. President telling reporters on Wednesday the special counsel report is in, and congressional Democrats need to accept it. Wall Street lower on Wednesday. The Dow down 59 points, NASDAQ off 18. This is Fox News.
Let's go for a drive.
Let's take a stroll.
Let's gallivant.
Let's go cruising.
We all have different ways to describe how we get up and go in our cars. But whatever you may call it, you can do more of it when you save 6% off your fuel purchases at any Shell station when you use your eligible Bank of Guam Visa and MasterCard credit cards. So stop by any Guam or CNMI Shell station and start saving today. Visit bankofguam.com for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Bank of Guam, the People's Bank. Member FDIC.
Docomo Pacific's all-new business bundles provide tailored solutions to help your business become a better business. Choose from our Business Basic, Essential, or Value bundles and get unlimited talk and text, worry-free data at home and abroad, plus access to the fastest online speeds in the Marianas. Add on mobile or broadband lines and save up to 20% for each line. Email businesssales@docomopacific.com to find out which bundle provides the best solution for your business. Terms and conditions apply.
The fight against the opioid epidemic took President Trump to Georgia on Wednesday.
Addressing a drug abuse summit in Atlanta, President Trump pledged his ongoing support combating America's opioid crisis and shared the stage with some who know its effects all too well. Tom Murphy is a Virginia State Police special agent whose son died from an overdose.
Every overdose is someone's child. Don't judge. Educate.
Law enforcement and public health officials say the nation must treat addiction to reduce demand, but also crack down on the suppliers. The Trump administration has launched a new public awareness campaign at crisisnextdoor.gov. In Atlanta, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
The president is certainly one of them. A new survey sizes up Americans who use Twitter.
A Pew Research Center survey suggests adult Twitter users in the U.S. tend to be younger, more educated, with higher incomes than the rest of the population. Pew surveying nearly 3,000 Americans willing to share their Twitter handles, finding 90% of folks rarely post, while 10% are responsible for 80% of all tweets by U.S. users. 65% of active tweeters said to be women more likely to regularly post about politics. Research also suggests users are more likely to be Democrats. The findings come amid ongoing accusations Twitter discriminates against conservatives, which the company denies. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
A senior citizen is attacked by a 300-pound bear while sleeping on a hiking trail in the Southern California mountains. The 84-year-old man somehow got away and ran to nearby homes to ring doorbells to plead for help. He told police he was sleeping in the recreational area when the ferocious animal attacked him. A Memphis man has been arrested after police say he beat a child to death after learning he was not his child. Joseph Avila is charged with first-degree murder in the death of a 4-month-old baby. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
In illness and in wellness, Calvo's Select Care is health care that is there for you. That's why over 80% of the Guam medical community places their trust and insures with us. We offer our members wellness and fitness programs for a healthier lifestyle and provide a comprehensive medical network on and off island to help members from unexpected illnesses. Contact Calvo's Select Care today for more information.
Let's see now. Fast, easy, affordable. That's the best way to describe my home loan at Bank Pacific. Fast because we give quick decisions. Easy because we've cut back on the paperwork. Affordable because today's home loan rates are still so low. So see us today to refinance or consolidate or to buy or build your new home and save yourself some money.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender, FDIC. Viva Bank Pacific.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Every day we start the program that way. I start the program that way. And I oftentimes have a vignette or two about who likes the Second Amendment, who doesn't like it, who wants to take it away from us, who wants to infringe on the right of people to keep and bear arms. Well, today the winner is in Los Angeles. A little drum roll there, please, real Joe. Kamala Harris. Kamala, as you may know, is one of the 742 people running for the Democrat nomination for president. Maybe I've exaggerated that number just a little bit, but the name of the show is Tall Tales after all. Yeah, so Kamala is one of the folks who would really like to be president of the United States. And she has already made some important plans if she does become the president of the United States. And here's what she says in an article from Town Hall. If I'm president, Congress will have 100 days to enact gun control laws or, and the or is, she's going to take action by executive order. Have we ever heard that before? Yeah. What was his name? Barack, something like that, yeah. During her one-hour town hall on CNN, Harris was asked about what she would do to end school shootings. I'm sure there are many students here who, while you were in high school, even middle school, that you had to participate in a drill, right? Where you were convened and talked to about how you needed to run into a closet because there may be a mass shooter roaming the hallways of your school. And in our America, that should never happen. Conversations take place every night between students and parents. Why do these things have to happen? Why do we have to have a drill like that? To which, of course, the response is because there are people in Washington, D.C., supposed leaders who have failed to have the courage to reject a false choice, which either suggests that you're in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. Supposed leaders in Washington have failed to have the courage to recognize that you know what, you want to go hunting, fine. But we need reasonable gun safety laws in this country, starting with universal background check and renewal of the assault weapons ban. But they have failed to have the courage to act. Here's my response to you. Upon being elected, I will give the United States Congress 100 days to get their act together and have the courage to pass gun safety laws. And if they fail to do it, then I will take executive action. And specifically what I will do is put in place a requirement that for anyone who sells more than 5 guns a year, they're required to do background checks when they sell those guns. I will require that for any gun dealer that breaks, that the ATF, I think it means breaks the law, breaks the executive order, the ATF take their license. And by the way, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, they've been doing a lot of A and T, but not much F. Yeah. And we need to fix that, Harris explained. On the third piece, because none of us has been sleeping over the past few years, part of what has happened under the current administration is they took fugitives off the list of prohibited people. I'd put them back on the list, meaning fugitives of justice should not be able to purchase a handgun or any kind of weapon. So that's what I do. This was a Don Lemon interview, and Don Lemon said, "Would that be your first executive action as president?" And she kind of walked away from that a little bit. So once again, it's kind of like with the bump stock ban. When you hear stuff like this, I think the fear is here comes the slippery slope. And by the time we get to the bottom of slippery slope, the only thing you'll be able to keep in your house to protect yourself is a pea shooter and a slingshot. Now, Kamala Harris, who is quoted as saying, "If I'm president, Congress will have 100 days to enact gun laws." I have another article here. This one is, again, from Town Hall, and this one says, Kamala Harris, "I'm suddenly a gun owner despite my previous assaults on the Second Amendment." So she owns a gun. And when she was in Iowa campaigning, she wanted everybody to know that she owns a gun. So you see, out in Iowa, in what the left refers to as flyover country, because there's only two parts of the country that matter: the Northeast, especially New York, and then the West Coast, especially Los Angeles. Everything else is just flyover country. You have to fly over it to get from one important part of the country to the other. So Harris knows that out there in flyover country, this anti-gun rap is not going to play so well. So she figured she could pander right along with the rest of the Democrats, and here's how she did it. Here's what the article says. Now, in typical progressive fashion, Harris is attempting to relate to flyover nation. She's suddenly a gun owner, a line liberals use before calling for some sort of gun control legislation. Like, quote, "I'm a gun owner, but no one needs assault weapons." Or like, quote, "I'm a gun owner, but no one needs more than 5 or 6 bullets in their gun." Or, quote, "I'm a gun owner, but we need common sense solutions." Well, one common sense solution, Kamala, I'm going to propose right here is that people who value the Second Amendment don't vote for you. That's a real common sense solution. And the article goes on to say, "I'm a gun owner, but," is how it always begins. They preface whatever they're wanting to ban by saying, "I'm a gun owner, but." So here on Tall Tales, no buts about it. We favor the Second Amendment. We favor the rights of people who want to keep firearms for their protection. I can't say that I'm really that enamored with the Kamala Harris approach to the Second Amendment. So that's the Second Amendment for today. Our little chat about the Second Amendment, an extremely part of this program for all those who want to keep guns in their homes to protect themselves. I got a little problem on my Facebook here. Facebook, just give me a second here, and I'll be right back here. Yeah. I don't know what happened here. Well, I'll just have to let it go. It's an important part of the program because I like to know what you guys are saying as I riff through these different topics concerning the Second Amendment and other really important things. So we go from the Second Amendment straight to Zemi Ikotny, which is my backwards play on words, backwards bilingual play on words that means meet the press. So we're going to meet the press right now. And what I do here is I take a look at the editorials from each of our daily papers, and I go through them with my blue pencil, pointing out usage, grammatical errors, or improperly stated facts, or what have you. And when I'm done with both, I will give the better of the two the coveted Blue Star Award. And listen carefully after I award that Blue Star, because depending on whether you're in downtown Agana or up in Tamuning, you may be able to hear the champagne corks popping in the editorial boardroom of the newspaper that wins today. Lately, you didn't have to worry too much about being downtown Agana because the Daily News hasn't won one for quite a while. It kind of reminds me of back in the day when the real Joe Cruz was doing those comical Yogi Berra interpretations. Remember that, real Joe Cruz?
Yep, those were the days.
I thought I was going to lose you to the nightclub circuit there for a while. A Night with Yogi Berra by the real Joe Cruz. And one of the routines went like this: when Yogi was questioned about being in a slump, and Yogi said, "I ain't in no slump. I just ain't hitting." Well, I don't know what to say about the Daily News. I don't know if they're in a slump or if they're just not writing. Of course, half the time they're running editorials from USA Today. But today we actually have a home-baked editorial from the Daily News. It's a little bit more exciting than yesterday. Yesterday's was, I'm sure it had everyone out there in our international radio listening audience sitting on the edge of on the edge of their chair. Yeah, because it was so exciting. Yesterday we had take care to prevent grass fires. It was just a cliffhanger right on down to the end to see what the call to action would be. It was a little bit more complicated than don't let your kids play with matches, but not a whole lot. So today the Daily News says more urgency needed in quest to hire chief medical examiner. The Commission on Postmortem Examiners discuss working with this community needs members of the Commission on Postmortem Examinations to recognize the importance of hiring a new chief medical examiner and work more expeditiously to fill the position. Guam's longtime chief medical examiner, Dr. Aurelio Espinola, retired at the end of January. 2 forensic pathologists from Hawaii were contracted mainly for homicides and similar crimes. Saipan-based pathologist Dr. Philip Dauterman, who travels to Guam for a few days at a time, handles other examinations. Despite knowing he'd be retiring for some time, the commission didn't seem to grasp how important it was to fill the job quickly. And it hasn't acted with any real sense of urgency in the months following Espinola's retirement. The commission didn't meet in March. Only Attorney General Levin Camacho, who serves as chairman, and Guam Police Department Chief Steve Ignacio. He's not the Guam Police Department chief. He's the chief of police. So they should read and Chief of Police Steve Ignacio showed up. Dr. Edward Blounce with the Guam Medical Society, Department of Public Health and Social Services Director, and once again, she's the Director of Public Health and Social Services, Linda Umpenko Denarcy, and Guam Memorial Hospital Administrator Lillian Perez Posada didn't show. They did not show up for the meetings. Yeah, so who was it yesterday that recommended the toilet seat award? Remember one of our...
Was it Mark? Or was it... I don't remember.
It might have been. Said we ought... Suggestion we have an award here for people, a toilet seat award, so you could take the toilet seat and wear it around your neck for the rest of the day. The commission didn't meet Wednesday as planned because, according to Katlina Chatrus, spokeswoman for the Office of the Attorney General, the commission wasn't able to print the meeting notice on time. Oh, wow. As required by Guam's open government law. Well, okay, that's kind of a bad news, good news. At least we know for sure that the Attorney General is aware of the open government law, and he's going to comply with it. Chatford said the commission will meet within the next couple of weeks. Where's the sense of urgency? Why not reschedule a March meeting and instead wait until April? Why the delay in rescheduling the April meeting? Without a chief medical examiner, there's no one to conduct autopsies on suspicious deaths or make determinations on causes of death, hampering police investigation and criminal prosecutions. Now, if you're a law and order watcher, you realize how important this medical examiner position is, because hardly an episode goes by that we aren't taken to that room where that red-haired lady is in there making snide remarks about the things she found doing autopsies. Grieving families have to wait for loved ones' remains to be processed and released. Quote, instead of the morgue releasing the body in 2 or 3 days, sometimes it's 10 days to 2 weeks, said Phil Flores, president and chairman of Our Lady of Peace. The community needs the Commission on Post-Mortem Examinations to find a viable chief, that means he's alive, right? Chief medical examiner, and do it very soon. If that means senators or the government need to step in, we just need to see it get done. Well, okay. This is a real editorial. It's not a public advisory. It's not a news item. It qualifies as a real editorial. So at least down there at the Daily News, you know you're not going to get a 0 or an F today because you actually submitted a real editorial to the folks. Okay, and then from there we go to the Post. Police chief nominee didn't deserve a haphazard process. Now, haphazard is a real good word, a good phrase, haphazard. It can be used in polite company instead of another concept or another phrase that conveys the same concept that begins with the word half. I'll let you fill in the blank there, real Joe Cruz. He did not deserve a haphazard process. The upside of the controversy surrounding Governor Lilian Guerrero's nominee for police chief is that this candidate has a good and long career spanning decades in the local police force. Captain Ignacio is a well-liked guy, as shown by the shower of praise he received from people who know him as a public service and a man of integrity. Ignacio had been low-key up until he was thrust into the spotlight following his nomination to the top job at the Guam Police Department. So the issue we're raising isn't about Ignacio's nomination. The issue is how senators handled it. They knew a mental health evaluation on Ignacio had been issued for more than a month and that the finding wasn't good. A clinical psychologist, Dr. Andrea Lighthouser, issued a March 11 report that found Ignacio unfit for the job. The report was publicly released several weeks later, and I'm going to add after the public hearing, as an attachment in the committee report, but it lacked context. Throwing in a subsequent evaluation from a family physician that validates Ignacio's fitness for a high-pressure role only led to further raised eyebrows. I was sitting here raising my eyebrows. Yeah, both of us. I think we're sitting here raising our eyebrows almost on a minute-by-minute basis, right, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, let me see here. Where am I? Yeah, because a family doctor's evaluation is hardly an apples-to-apples comparison to a clinical psychologist's report. It didn't take the Guam Daily Post more than a day to ask for clarification from Lighthizer, who said her finding was based on an assessment of Ignacio at the point of the evaluation. She also apparently outlined recommendations, blacked out in the version that became public, that could remedy her findings. Mental health is just like physical health, Lighthizer told the Post. Some periods of time we might do markedly well. Other times, markedly not well. But it's not like we're locked in for the rest of our lives in a certain condition. We can recover from depression and anxiety, said the clinical psychologist, who also evaluated Police Chief Joseph Cruz when he was nominated for the job. After Ignacio went through the public humiliation via release of a report lacking context, Senator Jose Terlaje's committee reviewed the nomination, announced he would seek a second opinion on Ignacio's mental health. They're really giving Senator Jose Terlaje a pass here. They're not mentioning how Senator Jose Terlaje during the hearing did his best to grandstand and play to the nickel seat. I guarantee you're going to be confirmed. Senator Nelson, I talked to Senator Nelson. He wants it to be unanimous, so I'm going to tell all 15 to vote for you. In the meantime, Terlaje's sitting there with the Lighthizer report in his back pocket, knowing that when, or maybe he's thinking not when, maybe he's thinking if anybody finds out about it, there's going to be an explosion, and the person that's going to be damaged in the explosion is going to be Steve Ignacio, just like this editorial says. The editorial goes on to say the second evaluation should have been requested before the committee report went out. Or better yet, any nominee should go through the required mental health screening before his or her name is announced to the public, so the nominee will have the option of bowing out if the test doesn't find him or her fit for a job. Now, should I correct the grammar here? It says, if the test doesn't find him or her fit for the job. What should they have said?
Them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Still, rules are rules, and if he doesn't pass, I guess they, right? Still, rules are rules, and if they don't pass the second mental health evaluation, it's unlikely senators will have sufficient cause to let him continue with the police department's top job when they have, by law, certain standards to follow. So we had Mark called yesterday, and he said, well, if the second opinion comes back and it's favorable, then we need to have a third opinion. So the rule should be you got to have at least 2 out of 3. My analysis was that we don't know how many opinions it's going to take until Terlahi finally gets one that he likes. It'll give him cover to do what he shot his mouth off about at the public hearing, which is confirmed Steve Ignacio. Okay, short break. We'll come back here, and I'll finish up the post. I'll award the coveted Blue Star, and we'll move on into the card.
Do you know someone who has difficulty following conversation in noisy places or turns up the TV a little too loud? These may be signs of a hearing loss. Ross Hearing Aids specializes in hearing evaluations, custom-fit hearing aids using the latest in wireless digital technology, and custom-fit hearing protectors. Call Ross Hearing Aids today to schedule a complimentary hearing consultation. 637-HEAR, 637-HEAR. Ross Hearing Aids, located across Shirley's in Harmon.
Get a Coke 12-pack for only $3.49 when you fuel up on $35 or more of premium high-performance fuel. Conditions apply. See stores for details. Circle K. Take it easy. Get a dozen extra-large eggs for only 49 cents when you fuel up on $35 or more of premium high-performance fuel. Conditions apply. See stores for details. Circle K. Take it easy. Get a case of Circle K water for only $2.99 when you fuel up on $35 or more of premium high-performance fuel. Conditions apply. See stores for details. Circle K. Take it easy.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-825-55.
So the Post editorial then reaches a conclusion. It's a lesson learned for future nominees. Ask the governor to let you go through the required mental health screening first before your name is publicly announced. In Ignacio's case, it's he and his family who will be left with shame that would be tough for most people to shake off. Public service is a calling for some people, but some of the good ones might decide to stay away. So the way the 35th Guam legislature has handled the confirmation process does not inspire much confidence. We saw the Danny Tydenko debacle, where Danny finished testifying, and then when he was done, Mary Camacho, ex cathedra, took the opportunity to slam Danny Tydenko. Danny never had the opportunity to say anything in his own behalf with respect to those charges. And we saw the same thing here with Steve Ignacio. We saw Pito Terlahi, as I said earlier, showboating to the crowd, to the folks who were there that liked Steve Ignacio, saying things like, I guarantee you're going to be confirmed, and in a sense, leaving Steve Ignacio hanging out to dry. It just didn't seem like the way to conduct a confirmation hearing, because it put the nominee in such an awkward position. As the Post pointed out, one that's going to be hard on him and hard on his family. I hope, it's my sincere hope, that he's somehow able to leave this behind him and live it down, regardless of what the report actually said. Now, Lighthizer has said on more than one occasion, if you could see the whole report, you'd understand what I'm saying. But no one has seen fit to come forward with the whole report. So there we are. So I'm going to, not too much debate here. The Daily News has an editorial that is capable of winning. It's a real editorial, and it speaks out on something that requires a voice a loud voice, like an editorial voice, to come out and speak out about it, and it holds people accountable. It holds these public officials that are supposed to come to these meetings, it holds them to account for not coming to the meetings that they're supposed to come to. So it's a good enough editorial. I'm going to give the blue star to the Post, however, based on, well, a couple of things. One, as I've mentioned before, if an editorial doesn't necessarily follow along with my thinking on a particular subject, it doesn't mean that that editorial is not going to get the blue star. But if the editorial follows along with my line of thinking on the particular subject, it certainly doesn't hurt. And that editorial then will have a pretty good chance of prevailing. And that's kind of what happened here today. I've said some of the same things right here on Tall Tales that the Post editorial comes back and says. Now, I'm not going to say that the Post uses Tall Tales as an inspiration. I would prefer to say that great minds oftentimes reach similar conclusions. The other thing, the other reason that the Post edges out the Daily News is this one is more topical. The Post is more timely. The matter of the selection of the chief medical examiner has dragged on for quite some time. The meeting that they're talking about was in March, whereas the Steve Ignacio matter has been top of the mind awareness here ever since that eagle-eyed reporter at the Post uncovered the Lighthizer report. So today it's the Post. Nice try, Daily News. I'm going to add to the box score here. So the score now is Post 106. Daily News is stuck on 39. Yeah, but at least they did their own editorial today. That I see that as... Control yourself, Real Joe Cruz. Okay, I'm going to just check into the Facebook here and see what folks are saying about the Steve Ignacio matter. I've got Vincent Pareda. Have you seen the latest news report that acting Chief Ignacio has been declared fit for the position of Chief of Police after a second evaluation by Dr. Lighthizer? It appears that Dr. Lighthizer conducted a follow-up evaluation, and based on this evaluation, she found that Ignacio apparently addressed the issues that the previous found him to be not fit. She now considers him fit for the position. Well, I suspect that we'll be picking that up tomorrow, Vince, because it'll probably be on the TV news tonight and tomorrow's paper, giving our international radio listening audience the time to develop their own thought processes as to how to deal with this latest revelation. Jesse Limtiaco, do all public safety officers get a mental health screening? I don't know about all, but all cops do. Anyone who's hired to become a cop and go to the police academy does have a psychological evaluation and also has to undergo a polygraph examination. Then Nate horns in and says, executive orders only last as long as the president is in power. Once the other side gets elected, it can be changed by one person. Going back to Kamala Harris and her gun control chat. Let's see, I guess that's all I've got for right now on this red-hot issue. But I'll be checking back from time to time to see if others are commenting on this issue. I go from here to the card. And this is what I've got on the card today. I've got I've got the Attorney General of Guam versus Joey Duenas. I've got Steve Ignacio versus the Sunshine Law. Subtitle, Steve Never Has a Nice Day. I've got Noquette versus Torres, and the Torres is Bob Torres, Robert Torres, a justice of the Supreme Court of Guam. And I've got the Nigerian brothers versus Jussie Smollett's attorneys, turning to the national news for a moment. And then I want to go on a little bit with Ken L.G. versus Joe Arnett on the subject of the minimum wage. Minimum wage is important. I think it requires a certain amount of discussion. And, of course, I'm always interested in your thoughts on that particular subject. So going next to the Attorney General of Guam versus Joey Duenas. And the story that ran on the PNC last night, Attorney General questions legalities of GPA and GWA raises. The headline is misleading. The Attorney General didn't question anything. He doesn't have questions. He's got the answer. And the Attorney General again, repeating the same thing, the Attorney General's office questioned the raises given to Guam Power Authority and Waterworks Authority executive managers. According to the Office of the Attorney General, you just can't get it right. It's not according to the Office of the Attorney General, it's according to the Attorney General. Offices don't issue opinions, they don't write letters. The raises were in violation of the open government law. We pay them what they're worth, Consolidated Commission on Utilities Chairman Joey Duenas said when word of raises for top GPA managers first surfaced. But the decision to provide the raises behind closed doors raised alarm bells. In a letter to the CCU, Attorney General Levin Camacho, now notice it's a letter from Attorney General Levin Camacho, not from the Office of the Attorney General. Our office reviewed the minutes of November 27 regular board meeting. According to the minutes, salary adjustments of executive management were discussed in executive session in violation of the open government law. According to the AG, the open government law prohibits discussions of salaries, adjustment of any employees or officers. Instead, such discussions must be transparent and held in a public meeting. Duenas said, it's a quote here of Joey Duenas, at this November 27 CCU meeting, legal counsel was present. Yes, they were. Now, when the subject matter of pay raises came up or salary adjustments for executive management came up, did they not advise against that because it was a closed meeting? You know, you got a copy of the AG letter, and I just got that late last night. And I'd rather not discuss it with the media because I think it's important that I communicate with the Attorney General and not communicate to him through the media. Apparently the same thing goes for meetings. Duenas said he is preparing a response and would prefer not to talk about the subject. The letter from the Attorney General not only rescinded the pay adjustments, but also requires those who receive the adjustments or bonuses to pay back the money. So I have this, yes. I have I have this mental image here of Attorney General Levin Camacho out there with a very small scoop, scooping up the spilled milk. Or actually telling Joey, here's the scoop. You scoop up the spilled milk, and you put it back in the bottle. Yeah. That means GPA General Manager John Benavente and GWA General Manager Miguel Badallo must pay back the 10% increase they received. Benavente must pay back the $25,000 bonus he received. Camacho said the issue is still under review. by his office. And they are awaiting a response from the CCU. And I have the letter here. It's really short. It's very easy to read. No Latin words in it. No legerdemain, etc. It just winds up by saying, any salary adjustments approved at this meeting are void ab initio. Ray and I talked about ab initio this morning. From the beginning, ab initio. They've always been void. That doesn't mean they're voidable and you can come along and somehow tweak something and they'll be valid. Void ab initio. It's as though they never happened. So because of that, I opined that if the CCU didn't do the right thing and claw back that money from the people that got the raises, then they're exposing other people at the employ of the CCU to liability, because it means people who prepared GG1s, certifying officers, etc., paid out money against, for which there was no legal authority to make that payment. Void ab initio. Let's see. Any salary adjustments or bonuses authorized and paid as a result of this meeting must be paid back by these employees. And it's signed by the Attorney General of Guam. So it's pretty straightforward, pretty definitive. I wonder how much head scratching and pencil sharpening is going to be needed to prepare a response to Levin Camacho. I have a little unsolicited advice that I could give to Levin, but first I'm going to chat with our Tom. Good afternoon, Tom.
Good afternoon, Bob. It sounds like they're saying that their legal counsel was present. So what they're really saying is that if the legal counsel is there, it must be legal. So it sounds like their legal counsel needs counseling too, because their legal counsel did not tell them don't do it, it's against the law. So maybe the legal counsel just did not know the law to begin with.
It doesn't look very good for counsel, does it, Tom?
Yeah. So they shouldn't be saying, Mr. Dueñas should not be saying that our legal counsel was present, so it must be legal.
Right.
Just go back and read the law. Everybody should understand the law. Everybody in those positions, they should understand it. They should go back to the law book and know what, so they'll know what they're doing. It reminds me of the time when you sued the land management director. He did not know anything about open government.
Well, I don't know if he didn't know or didn't care, Tom, but the results were the same, weren't they?
Yeah.
Well, there's something else
here. We're having a problem with a lot of our elected officials just not knowing the law at all. I got a quick question for you, though, about the pathologists, right?
Uh-huh.
Who is responsible to hire a pathologist for us?
It's that board.
And what does the board consist of?
It's the chief of police and the director of GMH, somebody from the medical society, director of public health, Snow White, a couple of the dwarfs. It was in the story that it was in the editorial that I read.
Isn't it better if they contract out the hiring of a pathologist for us? Like, for example, they could contract out the Guam Medical Society, give them the annual funding, the preliminary funding of the cost of the salary of a pathologist plus benefits, and also give a little money to the contractor, and let a whole bunch of doctors hire our own pathologists for us instead of just a small panel of maybe one doctor in that group to vet an applicant for us. I would rather have a whole bunch of doctors review the resume of that applicant for a pathologist for us.
Well, don't you think we should have a clinical psychologist on that panel too, Tom?
Yes.
Maybe Andrea Lighthizer, for example?
Yes. But it's in the Guam Medical Society, a whole bunch of them in there, clinical psychologists in there, and surgeons in there.
Not in the medical society.
Medical issues than we do.
Not in the medical society. A psychologist would be an allied health professional. Tom, I'm right up against a break.
All right, Bob. Thank you.
Good talking to you.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,600 by calling Family Finance in Agutya at 475-4545, Upper Tumon at 647-5626, or in Dededo 633-4473. Family Finance, serving the people of Guam since 1959.
GRMC's cardiology department treats most complex heart problems. In our catheterization lab, cardiologists use imaging equipment to treat clogged arteries that can cause heart attacks or heart failure. We perform balloon angioplasty, stenting, and other life-saving cardiac procedures. If you suffer from a heart condition, have your provider refer you to GRMC's cardiology clinic at 645-5500. GRMC, where patients are partners.
The Entertainer, from The Sting. I like that song. Very good, Real Joe Cruz. How are you able to play that without running into the copyright conditions of Facebook Live?
No, it's just bending the law a little bit. Which law do you want me to break, Bob?
Well, I'll tell you what, KKK. Anyhow, good music. So just wrapping up here with the Attorney General versus Joey Cepeda, versus Joey Duenas. Yesterday, I pointed out a section in the law that said that any board member who participates in a meeting that's in violation of the open government law, knowingly participates, is guilty of a misdemeanor. So I suppose that the typical defense would be to say, I didn't know that we weren't supposed to do that. My bad. I'm sorry, but I didn't know. But it's really hard to make that argument when you've got two lawyers sitting in the meeting with you. Because if that's excusable, then that means that you could never hold anyone to an account, because the presence of a lawyer makes it somewhere between super difficult and impossible to say, I didn't know what the law was. That's why you got a lawyer there. So if the Attorney General so desired, according to my understanding of the facts, he could charge the commissioners with a misdemeanor for that meeting. Whether or not he will, I don't know. I suspect not, especially if the commission does the right thing and does it right away. Now, I said before the break, or before I talked with Tom, I'd give a little unsolicited advice to Joey Duenas, and that is, don't dance around on this thing. Don't say, well, I want to deal directly with the Attorney General and not the media, or I've got to wait till counsel and I sit down and work this out. It's kind of like, a paint store got robbed and you're walking down the street and you got red paint all over your hands. You guys were caught red-handed breaking the open government law. So an appropriate response would be to say, yeah, we screwed up. We're older but wiser. We're going to pay scrupulous attention to the open government law from now on. And we have directed the paymaster at the two utilities to take the amount of the raises out of the next check of those people who received the raises. So we should have recovered all of the money by the close of the next payday. That would be the right thing to do. And don't say anything at all about raises at all. After you've done all that, and after you make a public announcement and an accounting, we got all that money back. If you want to think about giving somebody a raise, that would be the time, but certainly not before it. Because unfortunately, I've been a fan of the CCU ever since it came along. I still am. I think the CCU has done very good work as far as bringing our utilities along to where we want them to be. But credibility is so important for a government office, for a government agency. And the CCU lost a lot of credibility on this one because to the person who doesn't know, who goes only on the basis of appearances, it looked like you guys were trying to slide this one by. Had a meeting in November, discussed the matters in an executive session, came out and for 22 seconds, somebody said, I move that we adopt the pay raises we discussed in executive session. Even anybody who'd hung around till after the executive session, which nobody does, because when an agency goes into executive session, most everybody goes home. It was a properly called executive session to start with. So you come out of that and you spend 22 seconds authorizing these raises that take effect on January 1, never saying boo. You know, you got spokesmen for both agencies. There was never a public announcement that John Benavente was given a $25,000 raise because he'd done such a good job. Now, and the same with Miguel Bordello. Now, if you're going to give raises based on merit, don't you think that you get a little bit more bang for your buck if you make it public? That's the way it works in most organizations. If somebody does a good job, you give him some public praise. So John Benavente has done such a good job, and we're recognizing that by giving him a bonus. Instead of, we're going to do this in secret, we're going to slide it under the radar, we'll hope that nobody discovers it, and if they do, what are they going to do? Because we'll already have paid out the money. You know, you've created that impression, and you got to go as hard and as fast as you can to allay the people's fears that whenever you are having a meeting, somebody needs to stick around to make sure you don't do something like this again. That's my unsolicited advice, Joey. And, of course, given the high price of that advice, you are free to disregard it if you so desire. Okay, today is the day for the open government, and it's a classic bad news, good news type day. I'm going to come back after that big halftime show that you've all been looking forward to, the marching bands, the drill team, the cheerleaders, the sword swallowers, the fire eaters, etc., and talk about some other misfortune that's befallen Chief Steve Ignacio. So I'll be back in about 7 minutes. Enjoy the show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
A fruitful exchange. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Russia's President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un have wrapped up their first one-on-one meeting at their summit in Vladivostok. Both men saying they had fruitful talks about how to defuse a standoff over Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions.
After that first successful summit in Singapore, North Korea did take some partial steps towards denuclearization, stalling effectively its nuclear program. And Russia and Beijing are very much of the belief that in return for that, they should at least get some kind of easing of sanctions. And that is certainly what Kim Jong-un wants to see.
Sky News Moscow correspondent Dana Magny. There will be another meeting soon with more members from both countries' delegations. The man convicted of orchestrating the dragging death of James Byrd Jr. behind a pickup truck in Texas more than 2 decades ago has now died for that crime. John William King put to death by lethal injection on death row in Texas last evening after the Supreme Court declined to intervene. Clara Byrd Taylor watched as her brother's killer was put to death. She says it was justice, but didn't make her feel better.
There was no sense of relief, no sense. I was just happy that this month was over with.
King did not acknowledge the Byrd family and spoke no last words. The search for a 5-year-old boy missing from his home in Crystal Lake, Illinois, ended Wednesday with the discovery of A.J. Friend's body in a shallow grave. Police Chief James Black says the boy's parents have now been charged with killing him.
Based on the current information and evidence, both Joanne Cunningham and Andrew Friend are being charged with the death and disappearance of A.J. Both are in police custody at this time.
Another of the couple's children has now been placed in foster care. Asian stocks closing Thursday mixed. Dow futures are up slightly after a down day Wednesday on Wall Street. This is Fox News.
So what's the deal? Are you still paying for the right to have your checking account at your bank? Well, at Bank Pacific, we think it's our privilege, not our right. That's why we offer My Green Free Checking, where your monthly maintenance checking fees are zero. That's zero. And it comes with a free Visa check card and monthly green e-statements. My Green Free Checking. Bank Pacific today. Because having you as our customer, that's our privilege.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender, FDIC. Viva Bank Pacific.
The University of Guam presents Tritons Out Loud. Celebrate a day of diversity on Friday, April 26th at the University of Guam Calvo Fieldhouse from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Come out and experience the opening parade, food trucks, fashion and entertainment, and more.
Let's have some fun.
This event is open and free to the public. Join the first ever Diversity Day where we celebrate unity, pride, sexuality, individuality, and diversity of the Triton and Island community. Tritons Out Loud.
President Trump says the special counsel's report is in and congressional Democrats ought to accept it.
Now we're finished with it, and I thought after 2 years we'd be finished with it. No, now the House goes and starts subpoenaing. They want to know every deal I've ever done.
The president says he'll oppose any congressional subpoenas for documents or testimony from White House aides. The House Oversight Committee debating its next steps. After a delay, another candidate joins the race for the Democratic presidential nomination today.
Former Vice President Joe Biden is expected to make his announcement in a video, joining the crowded field of Democrats already running for president in 2020. Biden's schedule will include a fundraiser tonight. Then over the next several days, he's expected to travel to Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. Recent polling has him at or near the top, and supporters believe his many years in public service will win voters. He has also dealt with recent accusations by women who say he's made them feel uncomfortable with hugs, and he promises to be more mindful. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
The World Health Organization has issued its first ever guidance on how much screen time children should get. The UN Health Agency says children under 12 months old should not have any screen time at all, while those children under 5 should not spend more than 1 hour watching TV or computers or tablets every day, and less is better. Music City becomes Football City tonight, hosting the NFL Draft.
The Arizona Cardinals will be the first team on the clock with the first overall pick in this year's NFL Draft. A lot of speculation surrounding that selection, with most signs pointing to the Cardinals taking Oklahoma quarterback Kyler Murray, despite trading up last year in the draft for QB Josh Rosen. Now, Rosen could be on the trading block today, with other teams like the New York Giants and Washington Redskins shopping for someone under center. The Oakland Raiders entered today with 3 first-round picks, including the 4th overall. The Giants, Seattle Seahawks, and Green Bay Packers each have 2 picks as the result of trades. The NFL Draft kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern. Matt Napolitano, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Hey, it's
it's Mom. Somebody forgot to thaw the chicken, so meet us at Chili's for 2 for $25. Oh, and congratulate your sister for making the basketball team. She's thrilled. Love you. See you at Chili's.
Enjoy 2 full meal combos for $25. An appetizer, 2 mouth-watering entrees like our crispy chicken breast, smoked barbecue quarter leg, or smoked jalapeno cheddar sausage. Served with corn on the cob and french fries. 2 bold combos for $25. A full-on meal deal available nightly for a limited time. Together, we Chili's.
The GCC Votech Class of 79 is back. Join them on April 27th at the Onward Beach Hotel for a night of dinner, dancing, skits, and reminiscing. It's been 40 years since graduation, so take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime chance to relive the memories. There's also a memorial mass on Friday, the 26th at the Santa Teresita Church. Be there at 5:30 for candle placement in honor of classmates who've gone before. Tickets for the reunion on the 27th are on sale for $40 a person. For details, find Connie Kittigwas and Nicholas at 488-6108 or Kathy Diaz, 777-3243. Viva 79ers!
What a show. I never get tired of watching that show. It's always so exciting, especially the cannon fire at the conclusion of the show. It's great entertainment. Well, of course, it's halftime on Tall Tales, so that's exactly what our international radio listening audience expects on Tall Tales. If you have an overpowering desire to call Tall Tales and hear your voice echoing through the canyons of our international radio listening audience, give us a buzz at 888-TALK, 888-8255 if you're on Guam. Area code 671, country code is 1, 888-8255. And, of course, I always try to keep looking out of the corner of my eye here at the Facebook comments. I got one here just a minute ago from John Dozier, or is it Dozier, John? He says, but Bob, I thought raises were frozen this year due to government money concerns. Well, I did hear this explanation that the raise freeze was in the Budget Act, and the freeze only applied to agencies that drew their appropriations from that budget. Since the CCU, since the two utilities don't get appropriations, they conduct their operations based on the money that ratepayers pay, that freeze would not have applied to them. So the general government, the so-called line agencies, et cetera, are not able to squander taxpayer monies paid in taxes. The CCU, however, doesn't have the opportunity to squander taxpayer monies, so they have a license to squander the ratepayers' monies, apparently. But, you know, again, I said when this all came out, I don't know which was the more offensive, the size of the raises or the way the raises were done. So it looks like we're on the road to getting the raises undone so we can concentrate a little bit more on the sizes of the raises. Okay, so before the big halftime show, I made reference to Steve Ignacio and a classic bad news, good news, not for Steve, but for the people of Guam. And I'd label this is Steve Ignacio versus the Sunshine law of Guam, and I would give it a subtitle, Steve Ignacio Never Has a Nice Day. After all the trouble he went through with that committee, the Lighthizer report, etc., all of that heartache, etc., here's the story from KUAM last night. Acting Police Chief Steve Ignacio has been ordered to pay a $1,000 fine from his own pocket for violating the Sunshine Reform Act. In February, attorney Tom Fisher sent a Freedom of Information request to Ignacio and then filed a lawsuit. Fisher was seeking copies of GPD's firearm and holstering policies and directives. Ignacio initially refused, but after guidance from the Office of the Attorney General, he complied and sent a response, but certain portions were redacted. Attorney Fisher said some of the responses should not have been redacted. Although Judge Maria Fitzpatrick, who is apparently a new pro tem judge, although Judge Maria Fitzpatrick didn't have a problem with the redacted responses, she did have an issue with the fact that Ignacio initially refused to comply with the FOIA request and therefore issued the $1,000 sanction. Fisher represented Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio's alleged gun-grabbing incident, which he was found not guilty of. So you probably remember that as part of Fisher's defense of Lieutenant Governor Tenorio, he asked for certain general orders from the chief of police, and the chief of police initially refused. I thought this was really, really strange because general orders are public documents. Rather than keeping them locked up in the safe somewhere, it's the kind of papers that the police department would like to have broad readership. They'd like all of the cops to read the general orders, and some of them even have an application to the public. So I was really surprised when I heard that Ignacio refused the request. Now, then, of course, the conspiracy part of my brain kicked in, that cynical part of my brain that finds a dark cloud for every silver lining, and I started to think, well, let's see, Ignacio is the acting, Ignacio was the acting chief, and perhaps he was trying to help out the police department by not releasing those documents. In other words, he was kind of Terlahi, the chairman of the Committee on Police, etc., what his take is on Steve Ignacio's violating the open government law. Is that something that we can kind of brush aside like the Lighthizer report? Well, you know, a lot of people came down and testified in his behavior, so that open government law, that was just Tom Fisher. You know, we don't have to pay any attention to that. He'll be a really good chief. Well, I don't know. I'm here to say that a public official, someone who's a director of an agency who doesn't understand his responsibilities under the open government law and under the Sunshine Law, I don't know if those people, you talk about fitness to serve, I don't know if they're fit to serve because there's no good reason to hide these things from the public. There are a lot of bad reasons to do it, but there are no good reasons. So this is a real black mark on Steve Ignacio. The Lighthizer report, etc., I characterize it as a black mark on Peto Terlahi because of the ham-fisted way he handled the whole thing. And because of Lighthizer's statements that if you could read the whole report, you'd understand But there, you know, if you could read all of Judge Maria Fitzpatrick's decision, I don't think you'd understand any better than you do now. Steve Ignacio broke the law. So I'm hoping that some ambitious reporter will stick a microphone in front of Pito Terlahi's face and say, well, what about Steve Ignacio's violation of the open government law? That's the kind of answer that I think we need. Anyhow, so it's bad news. It's bad news for Steve Ignacio. But the good news that comes out of this is this. That we've had a commission that violated the open government law, and our Attorney General didn't skip a beat. He's right out there saying, you guys broke the law. Pay the money back. And it's taken us a little while to get there. As I mentioned on Ratio, the Attorney General before this one would have never done anything like that. So that's good news. The fact that our Attorney General is willing to jump in there and enforce the open government law, and when people violate it, take them by the seat of the pants and the stack and swivel, and straighten them out. And obviously, we have a judge, another judge, who knows that that section of the law that says a $1,000 fine, pay it out of your pocket, means exactly what it says. So if you have an extra $1,000 to waste, go ahead and violate the open government. Go ahead and violate the Sunshine Law. So I see these two things, although I don't like to see them happen. It would be much better if these things didn't happen and we didn't have to go through these exercises. Maybe we'll get there someday, because the best way to bring about compliance with the law is to have vigorous enforcement of it. But I think it's heartening to see that we've got a couple of people here in positions of authority that will do the right thing when these violations of the law are detected. And it's unfortunate that this another load of bricks has to fall on Steve Ignacio, who may very well be a good choice as chief of police, but not getting off to a very good start. Next item I have on the card here is called Noquette versus Torres, and the Torres is Bobby Torres, a justice on the Supreme Court. And Noquette is Chief Justice of the Chuuk State Supreme Court. Camilo Noquette is the Chief Justice of the Chuuk State Supreme Court. And he is a member, Chuuk is a member of the Pacific Judicial Council, along with Palau, Yap, the FSM National Court, Koshrai, Pohnpei, the CNMI, Chuuk, and Guam. And Justice Torres is a member of the Pacific Judicial Council. This is it's kind of heavy-duty stuff, and I'm a little bit surprised that Chief Justice Noquette is speaking out about it, because ordinarily these kinds of things are not talked about, as you'll see when I get into the article here a little ways. KUAM News has confirmed with the president of the Pacific Judicial Council, Chief Justice Camilo Noquette of the Chuuk Supreme Court, that there is an ethics investigation involving a sitting justice on the Supreme Court of Guam. In an interview with KUAM News, Justice Noquette said he knows of an ongoing ethics investigation into Supreme Court Justice Robert Torres. Quote, "Yes, I'm aware of it. I heard about the Torres incident," Noquette said. "The Pacific Judicial Council is very interested in getting the results of the investigation. I have not received any result yet from that investigation." The investigation is being conducted on Guam, presumably by the Judiciary of Guam ethics prosecutor Albert Tolentino, Noquette said. I've heard from other sources that their investigation is going on, and I think that's in the best interest of the PJC, Noquette said. Meanwhile, Judiciary of Guam Director of Policy Planning and Community Relations, Sean Gumatauto, says when it comes to ethics complaints or investigations of lawyers, judges, and even justices, mum's the word. Any and all matters related to judicial discipline are confidential, Sean Gumatauto said. KUAM News sent several questions to Judiciary of Guam ethics prosecutor Albert Tolentino. We asked if the court had received any complaints against any Guam judges or justices. And here's an answer. Quote, according to the Guam Rules of Judicial Disciplinary Enforcement, all proceedings before the filing and service of formal charges shall be confidential, Tolentino wrote to KUAM News. After the filing and service of formal charges, all proceedings shall be public. When the investigation is completed, Justice Noquette said findings should be forwarded to the Pacific Judicial Council. Based on the local investigation's findings, members of the council will decide if any action is warranted against Torres. The Pacific Judicial Council is composed of, and I read the members a little earlier, quote, we have a procedure. An investigation has to be made, and then it has to come to me as PJC president, Noquette said. It also has to go through the court where that judge is from. When the report comes out, once it comes out, we will take action. While the ethics investigation process is highly confidential, Tolentino said some circumstances allow an ethics investigation's details to be released. Quote, information may be disclosed when it's determined that there is a need to notify another person to protect that person, or to notify a government agency to protect the public or the administration of justice, or upon waiver in writing by the judge, Tolentino wrote. The result of the investigation should also not only come to PJC, but it should also go to the Supreme Court of Guam, since Torres is one of the judges of the Supreme Court, Noquette said. KOM asked Tolentino to explain the ethics complaint procedure when a complaint is lodged against a sitting judge or justice. Quote, generally, disciplinary counsel receives and screens complaints of judicial misconduct, Tolentino wrote. If the information would not constitute misconduct, if true, then the disciplinary counsel shall dismiss the complaint subject to review by the Committee on Judicial Discipline. If the information raises allegations which, if true, would constitute judicial misconduct, then disciplinary counsel shall conduct a preliminary investigation. The preliminary investigation determines whether grounds exist to believe the allegations or complaints. When disciplinary counsel believes there is evidence supporting the allegations against the judge, a recommendation is made to the Committee on Judicial Discipline to authorize a full investigation. After the full investigation, the Committee on Judicial Discipline may dismiss the matter, impose a private admonition or deferred disciplinary agreement, or order that formal charges be filed. Formal charges are filed with a special court, and a hearing is conducted before that body. The special court shall either dismiss the case or recommend a sanction to the Supreme Court of Guam. The Supreme Court of Guam has final review of the matter and may accept, reject, or modify in whole or in part the findings and conclusions of the special court. So a very interesting case dealing with Justice Robert Torres. Well, I shouldn't say it's an interesting case, a very interesting allegation by Chief Justice Camilo Noquet of the truck, as you were, the Chook Supreme Court. I'm having to learn all kinds of new stuff here, Real Joe Cruz. That truck, it's Chook. But, you know, I've kind of made the change, but I can't get used to the idea of asking a friend of mine if I can borrow his pickup Chook to go down and pick up something at the store, right? Anyhow, so that's pretty much does it for the local part of Tall Tales. I still want to spend a little time on minimum wage with Ken LG versus Joe Arnett. Let me take a peek at the Facebook comments again. Starting out with our Carl. As a psychologist, what do you think, Vince? Should they have sought a second opinion from another psychologist or mental health professional? Or is the revised opinion by the original doctor okay? Interesting question. And then, again, being a suspicious kind of guy, I would also expect the Dr. Lighthizer to explain why she came out with a second opinion. Did she just do it sua sponte, just think, well, this would be a good idea? Did she do it in response to all of the bad press that Ignacio's been getting? Horror of horrors, was somebody twisting her arm? These questions could be answered also. And then I've got Oz Octavio Bolinao Macaroyo talking at the same time. And then she says, they say, can't figure out what they're talking about. Well, Oz, I can't figure out what you're talking about. And then we've got Joe Cruz, who is a member of the Triple J Rangers. The only thing wrong with those raises is Bob Klitzkie caught you. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go now to, you remember the Jussie Smollett case? Jussie Smollett alleged that a couple of guys, white guys, wearing MAGA hats, beat him on one morning in Chicago at about 3 a.m., beat him up and put a noose around his neck and did some really bad things. He made a complaint to the cops. And there was a certain amount of uproar when that happened. But the Chicago police investigated, and they found a couple of brothers from Jamaica who I'm going to refer to, from Nigeria, who I'm going to refer to as the Nigerian brothers, although they do have names. Their names are Olabinjo and Abimbola Osundero. But I'm just going to stick with Nigerian. I had enough trouble with Chook here a little while ago, so I'm just going to stick with Nigerian brothers. So the Nigerian brothers, cops investigated, found these Nigerian brothers and said, no, that's not what happened. Smollett put us up to this. He gave us some money. And he said he wanted us to stage this so he'd get some juice on the social media that would enhance his career and help him earn more money. But nobody beat him up. So when that happened, the state's attorney for Cook County filed 14 different counts against Smollett, various kinds of misconduct. But the ink was hardly dry on the charges when the state's attorney, Kim Fox, dismissed the case and said, well, you know, he did some community service and he's going to forfeit his bond, so we're not going to prosecute this. Well, he'd done his community service before he committed the crime, and he'd done it with Jesse Jackson's group called Push before he committed the crime. So strange kind of community service. I suppose if you intend on committing a crime in Chicago, the thing to do would get in lots of community service before you do it, so you could kind of do it at your convenience and kind of bank your community service so that when you're sentenced, you wouldn't have to worry about it. Chicago. So a certain amount of outrage ensued because Kim Foxx dismissed those charges. One of the people that was outraged was the mayor of Chicago at the time, Rahm Emanuel. And I glanced into my crystal ball and I said, it won't take long before the left is going to come back and slam Rahm Emanuel. And that's exactly what happened. The left came back and really hammered him because of other things that had happened in the Chicago Police Department. Nothing to do with Smollett at all. And, of course, when you're playing identity politics, you've got a homosexual black man who is the victim. How do I know he's the victim, Real Joe Cruz? I told you he's a homosexual black man. And then you've got this white mayor who, even worse than being white, is Jewish. So it's obvious that Rahm Emanuel was way out of line. So the left really pounded him. And then one of the lawyers for Smollett came out with some really outrageous stuff. Smollett was sticking by his story. What he said happened actually happened. And the two people that actually beat him up were the Jamaican brothers, but they were wearing whiteface at the time. In other words, they had disguised themselves as white folks. So the latest shoe to drop here is this story that I got off PJ Media. Nigerian brothers sue Smollett's attorneys for lying about whiteface, steroids, and sex. On Tuesday, the Nigerian brothers filed a defamation and false light lawsuit against the attorneys for Empire star Jussie Smollett. The Osundario brothers, also known as the Nigerian brothers, claimed Smollett directed them to carry out the fake hate crime against him. But Smollett's attorneys continue to insist Smollett is innocent and did not lie to police about the matter. Smollett's attorneys responded to the lawsuit with derision, calling it, quote, comical. On January 25, Smollett told plaintiffs in private that he needed, that is the Nigerian brothers, told them in private that he needed a favor from them. They were to help him stage a social media hoax and pretend to attack him. Smollett's motivation was simple. He wanted his employer and the public to notice and appreciate him as a successful black, openly gay actor. Okay, so we're coming up on the Jack Haddock treasure hunt, right? So right after the seventh inning stretch, I'll come back to the Nigerian brothers here.
In illness and in wellness, Calvo's Select Care is health care that is there for you. That's why over 80% of the Guam medical community places their trust and insures with us. We offer our members wellness and fitness programs for a healthier lifestyle and provide a comprehensive medical network on and off island to help members from unexpected illnesses. Contact Calvo's Select Care today for more information.
Everybody wants to be more productive. We look for ways to optimize our time and maximize our efforts. But how far would you go to do this? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we're going to get a little bit extreme and see how you feel about it.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
And a search of the stadium shows that Jack Haddock is nowhere to be seen. But we're going to keep looking for you, Jack. We miss you. Okay, back to the Nigerian brothers. Smollett's motivation was simple. He wanted his employer and the public to notice and appreciate him as a successful black, openly gay actor. So Mr. Smollett directed every aspect of the attack, including the location and the news, the lawsuit states. After the Nigerian brothers spoke with police and testified before a grand jury, Smollett faced 16 felony counts of a false report, but those charges were mysteriously dropped late last month. Mr. Smollett's attorneys, faced with an outraged public, did not retreat after their success. They instead doubled down, not simply affirming that Mr. Smollett was a wholly innocent victim. That wasn't good enough for them. But that among other accusations, the brothers had unequivocally led a criminally homophobic, racist, and violent attack against Mr. Smollett. So even after this came out, then Smollett goes back and he tells the same fairy story. Defendants made these comments knowing they were untrue to distract from Mr. Smollett's farce and to promote themselves and the Garagos law firm. Attorney Tina Glandian made many statements trashing the Nigerian brothers, even though the charges against Smollett had already been dropped. So what's the point? The lawsuit argues that Ms. Glandian's statements indicating plaintiffs actually criminally battered Mr. Smollett without his consent are patently false and defamatory, as Mr. Smollett originated, planned, and orchestrated the attack. The suit focuses on three massive lies Glandian told about the brothers. First, her insistence that the brothers' attack Smollett was a serious matter. Ms. Glandian is stating that the plaintiffs criminally battered Mr. Smollett, implicitly proffered that plaintiffs are guilty of conspiring to give false statements or giving false statements to Chicago police, and she specifically stated such in media appearances. Smollett's attorney also insisted that the Nigeria brothers wore, quote, whiteface on the day of the attack, a claim that is patently false and defamatory, as neither wore, quote, whiteface or pretended in any way to be Caucasian. Ms. Glandian's statements were made after the close of Mr. Smollett's criminal case, did not serve any legal function, and was not a requirement of her job as defense attorney. Indeed, Ms. Glandian's statements have caused considerable damage to plaintiffs' careers as they have lost talent agent contracts and career opportunities. In fact, the suggestion that they carried out a, quote, whiteface hate crime has made the brothers feel, quote, unsafe and alienated in their local Chicago community. Because Glandian, a very famous attorney, falsely and publicly stated plaintiffs have committed a gruesome hate crime, lied under oath, and intentionally misled Chicago police. Yet Smollett's attorneys did not just stop at this. She also spread the malicious rumor that the Osendarios brand, quote, Team Able, close quote, involves illegal Nigerian steroid trafficking. In reality, Team Able advises and demonstrates how to strengthen and build muscle, while maintaining a healthy steroid-free diet and fitness regimen. Glandian falsely stated that plaintiffs are involved in illegal Nigerian steroid trafficking and that these steroids help clients lose weight. These false and defamatory statements have caused the brothers real damage, including economic damages, damages to their reputations, and or damages to current and prospective business relations. Smollett's attorneys told one more disgusting and dangerous lie about Bola Osundario. Glandian inferred that Bola Osundario and Mr. Smollett engaged at least briefly in homosexual acts together. These statements were made to the third-party press and public, the lawsuit states. Bola Osundario is not gay, and he was dating a woman at the time, according to the lawsuit. Bola Osundario has never engaged in any sexual acts with Mr. Smollett. Thus, Ms. Glandian's statements are patently false. Yet the claim that Osundario had sex with Smollett is explosive for other reasons. The Osundario brothers are Nigerian-American, and they have family in Nigeria. Quote, same-sex sexual activity is illegal in Nigeria, can result in 14 years of imprisonment. If the accused is married, the punishment is death by stoning. Research by Pew indicates that 99% of Nigerians believe homosexuality should not be tolerated, the lawsuit states. Interesting legal question. Does a libel lawsuit lie when a person accuses another of being homosexual? I don't know the answer to that one. Therefore, Glandian's globally broadcasted statements that Bola Osundario is homosexual endangers him and the lives of his Nigerian family. As news of the lawsuit broke on Tuesday, Mark Garagos and Tina Glandian slammed the defamation suit as, quote, comical. I don't know. I got a feeling that when this thing goes to trial, they may not be chuckling as it goes through the courts. At first, we thought this comical legal document was a parody, Garagos and Glandian wrote. Instead, this so-called lawsuit by the brothers is more of their lawyer-driven nonsense. Now, there's a good phrase, lawyer-driven nonsense. It's worse than just plain old nonsense. More of their lawyer-driven nonsense in a desperate attempt for them to stay relevant and further profit from attack they admit they perpetrated. While we know this ridiculous lawsuit will soon be dismissed because it lacks any legal footing, we look forward to exposing the fraud the Osundario brothers and their attorneys have committed on the public. It seems Glandian's audacity knows no bounds. When Smollett's hate hoax story was exposed, she continued to spread the lies, even accusing the Osundario brothers of using whiteface, trafficking in steroids, and having sex with Smollett. Now, when the Osundarios are fighting back to restore their reputation, she dismisses the lawsuit as comical. On the contrary, these Nigerian brothers have excellent claims. The world of entertainment. Well, that's a pretty interesting story. I'll be watching that, and as events occur, I will keep you up to speed on the Nigerian brothers versus Smollett. So I'm coming up here pretty close to the home stretch. I want to spend a little more time on Ken LG versus Joe Arnett, but I notice my phone is ringing, Yeah. Who else would it be but Jack, right? Hello, Jack.
Oh, good evening there, Bob. How you doing?
Fine.
I wanted to call to inform you that that there was a tragedy that happened in Sri Lanka these past couple of days.
Sure.
And I just found out today that I'm no longer a Christian or a Catholic. I'm an Easter worshiper.
Isn't that something, Jack?
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
I think it has to deal with bunnies and chocolate and eggs.
Right.
And why can't they just name? Well, anyways, I was calling just to ask you, and that was related to the Somalia thing and identity politics. But I was listening to you earlier about Justice Torres, and I was hoping if you could compare the ethics complaint between what happened with Senator Espaldon and outside the jurisdiction, I think, which is in Saipan, and the ethics complaint that's happening with the Honorable Judge Torres and the ethics complaint outside, again, with, I guess, in truck. I was wondering if you could compare the two, just surfacely, because I know none of us has the details, but just to compare the two, and I'll just listen off the line if you can give us a generality.
Yeah, well, you can stay on line, Jack.
Okay.
As far as Espaldon was concerned, he allegedly committed misconduct in Saipan, but he is a lawyer, and as far as lawyers' ethics are concerned, everything you do or don't do has an impact on your ethical standing as a lawyer. As an example, if I were in the lawn mowing business and I told you that I would mow your lawn for $10 and I only mowed half your lawn and kept the $10 anyhow, that would be an ethical violation for a lawyer, even though it has nothing to do with the practice of law. Okay?
Okay, if I may interject, but wasn't the ethics complaint because he was a sitting senator?
Well, yeah, because he was a sitting senator, but he's also a lawyer. So, yeah, I'm kind of backing into this. The senators then have their own ethics code, which I don't have in front of me, but apparently they have a catch-all provision, sort of like the military prejudicial to good order and discipline count, in the UCMJ.
Yes, yes.
So apparently the charge was that he did something that brought discredit on the Guam legislature. And my recollection is that he represented himself as a senator, as though that gave what he was trying to do a little bit more weight. But I have to go back and review on that, Jack.
Yeah, I understand. That's why I just said just the surface. And I just wanted to mention that because we're talking about two different branches, but we're talking about ethics complaints and whether or not, like you just pointed out, is the ethics complaint, does it bear more on its profession, which is jurisprudence, or does it bear more on the branch itself? In one case, it was Senator Espaldon. In another case, it had to do with the judiciary branch with Honorable Torres. So I just wanted to ask you to. I know it's just asking a little bit too much because you're, like you said, there's violations. Almost like if you're in a profession such as being a doctor, you could have two sets of different violations. Maybe under the same species or origins. But I just wanted to bring that into the...
Okay, well, as far as Espaldon is concerned, let's just talk about procedure then. As far as Espaldon is concerned, the legislature has a screening process, and if the screening process determined that there's probable cause to consider that an ethics violation occurred, then an evidentiary hearing is conducted, and a report is prepared, and the report can be provided to the full body for action, I believe, if the body asks for it. In Espeldone's case, the report was never furnished to the body. It was allegedly finished, but never furnished to the body. I'll finish this up on the other side of going down the home stretch, Jack, okay?
Okay, Bob. You have a great evening.
Thank you.
This is Ronnie. Ronnie is about to break his piggy bank.
Come on, piggy bank.
Ronnie wants to upgrade his smartphone.
And this piggy's gonna help me.
If Ronnie had signed up for GTA's handset payment option, he could have selected a new smartphone with an affordable monthly plan.
I could have what?
Exactly. Sign up for HBO at GTA and don't break the bank.
I'm sorry, piggy bank.
Terms and conditions apply. Visit GTA.net for more information. GTA.
Okay, I think it's coming up soon.
Yeah, we're in Route 1 and near the airport intersection, right?
There, see it? What's the promo code? Look for the promo code.
Check out the Vantage Digital Billboard and reap the rewards. Catch the promo code on the screen and get $10 off your Stroll ride by inputting the promo code on the Stroll Guam app.
Did you see it?
You got it. I got it. You just focus on driving.
Take advantage today and take a look at Vantage Advertising's digital billboard located on Route 1 at the airport intersection.
So the call to the post at Churchill Downs. We're heading down the home stretch. That means I've got about 7 minutes here to finish up the Jack inquiry, maybe take another peek at Facebook, and spend a little time with Ken LG versus Joe Arnett. So in the case of Senator Espaldone, the body never took action on the complaint, the ethics complaint dealing with Senator Espaldone. With respect to the matter that I just read concerning Justice Torres, I don't know anything at all about the complaint. I don't know what happened, where it happened, when it happened, etc. I wouldn't even know about it had it not been for the Chief Justice of the Chief Justice Noquette having told a KM reporter about it, and it's a little bit of a surprise because as I read through the rules, these things are ordinarily quite confidential until formal charges are filed. So I can't compare, Jack, I'm not going to say compare and contrast because we've talked about that before. I can't compare the matter involving Justice Torres with the matter involving Senator Jim Espaldone because I don't know anything about Justice Torres's matter other than the Chief Justice of Chuk has said that there is a complaint pending against Justice Torres and that he's interested in it and that the matter ought to come or might come to the Pacific Judicial Council. So I'm just going to have to, once again, promise to keep an eagle eye on this and keep you informed as to the later breaking events. I'm going to go to Facebook here for a second, and I notice we have a guy named Kenny Williams, who tells us that today is Anzac Day. Now, for all of you folks out there in the international radio listening audience, during World War II and possibly even during World War I, Australia and New Zealand fielded troops to defend the British Empire. And I think the Anzacs spent some time in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and that part of the country. Maybe Kenny can fill us in on that. But it's Anzac Day in Australia, in Aussie, and NZ are kind of like maybe not the 4th of July, but sort of like Veterans Day in the United States. They are public holidays people still remember and honor the Anzac vets that are still around. When I saw this, then I also noticed that Kenny says that he is an American and an Australian citizen. So I thought that I would ask your leave, Kenny, to tell a joke about Aussies, if that's okay with you. Yeah, he's not, I don't see anything on Facebook that says I can't, so I guess it's okay, right? Real Joe Cruz. So this is kind of has an Anzac dimension. The scene is World War II. Pacific Ocean, somewhere off the coast of New Guinea, small coral atoll. And a couple of ships were sunk by the Japanese near that coral atoll. And one of the guys from the Australian ship swam ashore to this coral atoll. And he got to the atoll and he did his best to figure out what his survival was going to be like on that atoll. Kind of made himself at home. And after he was there for a couple days, he sees this guy wading in through the surf. And when the wader gets a little closer, the Aussie sees that it's an American Marine. And the American Marine has got a bandolier of ammunition slung over one shoulder. He's got his M1 hanging from the other shoulder. He's got a K-bar in his belt. He's got his bayonet kind of stuck in his helmet strap. And he's kind of coming in, swaggering in to the shore. And as he gets closer to the shore, the Aussie kind of pops up from behind a rock. And the Marine sees the Aussie and he says to the Aussie, "I came here to die." And the Aussie says, really, Mike? I came here yesterday. Okay, happy Anzac Day, Kenny. And please come around tomorrow and tell us a little bit more about Australia, New Zealand, Anzac Day, etc. I'll see you all tomorrow. So long.